Let's make a cool lab cart that we could use inside the lunar greenhouse, or you could use it for any purpose you want. So I'm going to do something along the line for my scene. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a plane, and I'm going to scale it in the axis. You just make it whatever size you would want to have. So relatively big-ish cart. Okay, with the vertices selected, Shift Control B to bevel, pull and roll up until you have 5 vertices and get a nice rounded part. I mean, that part's personal, but I like it rounded like that. Extrude up a little ways in the Z direction. Make sure that you've gone up straight. I don't know if I did. All right, so extrude up straight like that. And X faces, get rid of that face. So we have just this. Take that with it selected, E and Alt S, and pull until you get the thickness of the sort of tray that you want. Into edge selection, Shift Alt and click these upper edges and zoom in so you can see. Control B to bevel, pull and roll back so you have 2 edges, and then add 1 more so you have a total of 3. Keep it not too sharp. I like it a little bit rounded. I just find it looks a little bit more pleasing. Something like that. And then Shift Alt and click the bottom and do the same. Control B. You can have a slightly bigger bevel if you want. And then also come inside here and Control R and drag an edge loop down to there. Shade smooth. Now you'll have some shading issues here, this sort of shadowy stuff. And your polys will probably be flipped. So select it all, Alt N, recalculate outside. And you still have the shading problem, so come over here, choose Add Modifier, Weighted Normal, and Normal's Auto Smooth. And you will have this. Go ahead and turn on the cavity shader. It'll look a little bit nicer. All right, so that's where you're going to put your specimens, some jars and whatever equipment you want. So you make that any size that you want. All right, so let's make the handles and the legs or whatever. So come in and choose one of these edges that just go right across. Shift D to duplicate it, pull it up, get it out of the way, P to break it out. Come back to that, and I'm going to look down from the top, and I'm going to scale it a little bit, and so pull away so I can see. You decide how wide you want this, and I'll show you what I mean. Press 1 for vertex selection, and look on the end of this. I just press Control 3 to look on the end there, and I'm going to bring this up a little bit higher. E to extrude, pull it down, and think about how tall this is going to be. I'm going to have 2 of these trays or shelving parts, so I'm just going to bring it to there for now. You can always change this. Press X and edges, and you'll be left with just this. All right, so this is the part I was talking about. I'm going to scale this in the Y, make it a little narrower. We're going to make a bar here, a rounded bar, so select those top vertices and Shift Control B to bevel, pull a good amount, and have 5 vertices. You can have more if you want, you can have less, but 5 is a general good number. And then go back into object mode and look at that. Say, okay, that would be my bar. I'd have another one there. I'm going to have some other things. That looks reasonable. All right, let's convert that to a curve. Right click, convert to curve. In the curve dialog box under geometry and bevel, hold down Shift, click and pull to the right to increase the size until you get the thickness of the bar that you want. Shade smooth and have another look at that. Now if you want that smoother, you can add a subdivision, but we're going to be unwrapping this, and we're just going to leave it like this. Okay, so something like that is going to be okay. If you want to test it, you can, your 3D cursor should still be right there. Just bring this in so it seems to sort of make contact. In Substance Painter, when we texture this, we'll put a bullet there. But you can take this and mirror it. And just to get a sense of what it's going to be like. Okay, it's not a small lab card, it's relatively long. So you can make it shorter if you wanted to. All right, let's add a little bit of detail to this. Let's select these 2 points, Shift D, P to break it out. So we have that. Go to the curve dialog box again and just up the size of this a little bit to make sort of a handle or whatever you would call that part. And that looks pretty good to me. And so let's go ahead and convert that to a mesh right now. Scroll up to where it says resolution 12, change that to about 4. And I'm going to get rid of the mirror. I don't need the mirror actually now. And when I texture this, I'm going to texture just half of it and mirror it to the other side. So we got this piece here. We've already switched it to 4. So let's right click and convert to mesh. And then go into edit mode and 2 for edge selection and shift alt and click there. F to make a face. And here, F to make a face. And with those selected, control B to bevel, pull, roll back to just having 2, 1 more, it's 3. Now, there are some polys underneath here, and you can get rid of them if you want to. It shouldn't be too much of a problem, really. So I'm just going to leave that there for now. Okay, we're going to make some other bars here. So come back here, grab these 2 same ones you had before, Shift-D, pull them down, just below here somewhere. P to break it out. Take this, scale it until it makes contact, and then decide how big you want this. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. So just pull it like that. I just want some difference here. I want a smaller one. I want this to be thick, this to be a bit thinner, and I'm also going to do the same trick. I'm going to put a little handle on this. I don't know why, I like the looks of that. Shift D and P to break it out. Take that, scale it. Can't see it very well, but it's in there. Go back into object mode and then just increase the size of it. Now you can see that. All right, so that'll be the size of that piece. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Okay. Change the resolution to 4. Right click, convert to mesh. Come in and do the same thing. Have to make face. Have to make face with them both selected. Control B. Pull just 3. And you would have that. Okay, now we're going to have this piece, we're going to move it down in a moment and do some feet on this, and I may decide to pull this up. But we're going to do just a little bit of unwrapping, or marking seams actually first. I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to Shift Alt and click there. And Shift Alt and click there, Control E, mark seam. I'm going to do that. I'm going to come underneath, Shift Alt and click there, Control E, mark seam on that piece. I'm going to do the same thing on this piece. Control E, mark seam, and mark seam there, and on the underside I'm going to mark seam. Okay, now this is still a curve, and I want to convert that to a mesh, so I'm going to change the resolution to 4 and just do this. Convert to mesh. Done. Come to the underside of this and Control E, mark seam. All right, now I can actually join those together. That's not a problem, and I'm going to do that. So I've got that, and I got a couple polys underneath it, but no big deal. Okay, now let's just see. Now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be copying that and the shelf. So I'm going to look on the end, and I'm actually going to take both of them just for the moment. Copy them down just to get a sense of what this would look like. If I did this, let's say maybe that one's there, and then there's the feet on there. Yeah, actually I think that's probably an okay height for this, so I'm going to delete those. Just checking. All right, so I'm going to take this one here, and here's how we can do this to make these feet. Select this vertical stretch there, Shift D, P to break it out. Come in, grab this piece, we're going to pull it way, 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 way down. Zoom in. Okay, so we got that. Let's increase the diameter of that just like we did before here. Pull it out just a little bit like that. Let's convert that to a mesh. So 4 for the resolution, right click, convert to mesh. Come in now and grab that edge. F to make a face. Let's go ahead and bevel that right now. And then grab that edge and go E and S, come out like this. And the idea would be that you put bolts here and this would attach to the floor. So let's go E and come down a little bit, grab that, bevel that, and put another edge in there. And it's not very high poly or anything, but from a distance should look fine. All right, so we'll unwrap that. I'm not even going to put any seams on that. Now, let's go back though and have a look and see everything looks good. So this piece, I think I'll go ahead and copy it. So I'm going to look from the side, and I'm going to just Shift D and duplicate it. And I'm going to bring it down to somewhere around there. And then what I'll end up doing is I'll bring this tray, when I copy it, I'll bring it and I'll put it somewhere around there. All right, but I'm not going to do that now. But I do want these. And let's see, this is still a curve, so let's convert that to a mesh. So resolution of 4 and convert to mesh. And what's going on with this guy? That's a mesh. That's a mesh. Let's unwrap this in a moment. First of all, let's mark some seams. So let's grab the inner edge all the way around there. Control E, mark seam. So that's good. So these should all have marked seams. That one's going to have marked seams. That one does. This one doesn't. And this one doesn't, but that's okay. And so we can go ahead and join those. And there's that, and there's that. And okay, let's start looking at unwrapping this. Let's go over to the UV editor. And let's just have a look-see here. Okay, so if I select this one here and I press U, unwrap, I get this. So I'm going to select this, and G, I'm going to move it off to the side. This is going to be the same. Unwrap, select that, I'm going to move that off to the other side. So I got those two unwrapped. I'm going to take this one, and I'm going to press U, unwrap. Okay, let's do this one here. For this one, I'm going to U cube project, and I'm going to N, and I'm going to use UV pack matcher to pack, but you could use Blender. I'm just going to press pack. I'm going to move that up. Let's come over to this one, select it all, pack, and it's okay for now. Just move that down, and let's do this one. U, unwrap. All right, so we come back, we select everything, and this is what we have now. Let's select it, and let's try average island scale. And that helps a little bit with some of this. And let's press N and pack, or use Blender to pack. And this is what we end up with. Now let's have a look at this. And you probably could optimize some of this better. What I do want is I want this surface, because that's going to be important. And I'm just thinking about these circles here. And you know, the fact that I could probably, let's put on UV sync, and yeah, that piece is going to be important because I want to put some bolts in that with alphas, and then I'm going to mirror it all around. So I could definitely increase the size of that, and it would help. So I've got that. Now, what are these pieces here? They're probably just the ends of some of this stuff, and so that's not going to be very visible, so I'm not going to worry about that. All right, so here we go. We're going to convert this to an FBX, or save it as an FBX, and we're going to bring it into Substance Painter. Here we are in Substance Painter, and I've loaded what we've got. Okay, so let's do this. First thing, texture set settings, bake mesh maps, do this at 2K, uncheck ID, we're not going to need that in Blender. Everything else we can just leave bake. And as it's baking, just have a look at the size of the squares. The smaller the squares, the better. We could do a better job, but hopefully we'll be okay. We'll start off at 1K resolution, and we'll bring it up to 2K, and that should help us. But the bake looks fine. I don't see any shadows or any lines on it or anything like that, so we're okay. So we're going to start doing materials. I'm going to use a smart material. I'm just going to use a plastic that I made. But you could start with any of these plastics, plastic glossy. That's essentially what this is, but I've changed it to white, and I think added a little bit of dirt. So, you know, if you don't get the exact same effect as me, just find, you know, this plastic glossy and change it to white if you want that sci-fi look. All right, so we got that on there. It's pretty shiny, but let's go with that anyhow. Yeah, so let's make these handles here into sort of a rubberized material. So for that, I'm going to use another smart material, and I think it might come with Substance Painter. If it doesn't, just have a look for rubbers of different types, plastics of different types. I'm going to use this plastic rubber, drag it on top there, everything goes black, and I don't want that, so I'm going to add a black mask. Come over here to polygon fill, click on that, and then in the properties I'm going to choose, well, you can choose multiple things. I'm going to probably use this UV chunk. Click here. Actually, I'm not, because when I scroll around here, you can see that it's left this area here because I marked my seam here. So I'm going to switch over to the mesh. Try that, and that should get everything. Just the handle part, because it was a separate mesh at one point. So remember, I'm going to be mirroring this to the other side, so I've already got one side done. All right. So that's good so far. Let's have a look at what I want to do here. This is a really nice part, probably my favorite part. You can label these if you want. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to add a fill layer, and I'm going to switch this right away. I'm going to add color and then put height for now, and I'm going to change the color to black. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a black mask. Come over to polygon fill, but I'm going to switch to just this one here, polygon fill, and click here. I just want it on this polygon, this n-gon right in the middle. So far so good, but we're going to do more to that. Okay, so there's my mask. Now back to the original fill layer. Right click on that and add a fill to that. Come into that fill, and I think I'm only going to be using height, so I alt click on height. I want to reveal the height channel, keep that there. You can see the color's black again. And I'm going to come over to procedurals and type in circle, and I get this one. Circles comes with Substance Painter. Drag that onto the height, and we have this. Now invert this, so it should say true instead of false. Take the tiling right up and bring the balance down, and watch as I bring the balance down. That's the effect I'm going for, those little holes there. Okay, it's a little too shiny, so come back to the main layer here and turn on the roughness. I don't think I actually really need the height on here. The roughness just starts sliding it up, so it starts looking a little bit more like rubber or plastic, and that's the effect that I'm going for. So come back to the fill. You can play around with this here. You can change the scale if you want to something. Maybe I'll leave it like that. That's a really nice effect, I think, with the white and the black. All right, and that's what I'm going for there. All good so far. All right, let's do a little bit more. Let's come up to the top here and label that again, like I said, if you want to. Let's put a little bit of alpha work on this. Let's go to orthographic view and snap to the side. And I'm going to put some bolts here. It's debatable if you definitely want them, but I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it on a paint layer, so you can't take it back once you've done it. I'm going to use color and height, roughness, and metal. I guess I'm going to do metal. Let's see if we like this effect or not. I don't want it perfectly white. Height, we'll try going up. Roughness down a little bit. Metallic will go all the way up. Now, for screws, you can use what's built in with Substance Painter. There's not really very much, and so I tend to use this one that I've bought or a few that I've made. And if you wanted to use an alpha that I made, I'll try to link you to some. I made these in Substance Designer and brought them in. I've got some on the Discord, and you can give them a try. So let's see. Let's try turning on symmetry here. And let's go over here. Let's see if I show the plane. I think we're going to be in the Z. Yeah, I don't need to show the plane. I just want to see that. Let's try just that. Okay, make it smaller, and I'm going to click right about there. We'll get a bolt. Now it's not very high res, so I'm going to switch right now to 2048, and that'll help. That's probably good enough. So we got bolts there to hold this tray here, but we don't know where the other tray is going to go exactly, and so from here we're going to wing it a little bit, and I'm going to put bolts here right now, and when I copy the tray, I'm just going to put it at that level. Okay, So decide where you want those. And then for the foot down here, I'm going to uncheck that, and I'll come back to perspective is fine. And I'm just going to come down here, and I'm just going to go around. I'm just going to click. You can change the size of these if you want. You can rotate them. It doesn't matter that much. All right, so we got them there. So don't look overly realistic at this point. And well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add something else. So these are our screws or whatever, bolts, and this is our, I don't know, surface of the tray. Let's add some dirt. Add a fill layer, color and roughness only, roughness all the way up for dirt. Make it dark brown. Add a black mask and a generator, and come into the generator and choose dirt and watch it go crazy. There it is, quite dirty now. It's a lot like ambient occlusion, which is great. I'm just going to dial that back. I do want that shadow in there and some dirt, and so I'm going to leave it like that. And then when I copy this tray, it will have that, and as we pull it down, all right, so it won't look like this one's got the shadow and this one's pristine. They'll both have it, and you get some shadow in there, so it looks great. So we have that dirt there. Let's go ahead. I will label that as dirt. I'm going to put my little name there, my logo on there. You could do it on the front, but I'm going to do it there. And then when I copy this down, it'll be on there as well. So I'm going to use the same. No, I'm going to switch the parameters. Because it's a paint layer, I can now just do color and height, and it won't affect what I've done. And I can't go back and change this. I'm going to switch this to about a black color and drop the height down a little bit and put some text. Alphas, font, Orbitron is what I'm going to choose. Scroll up, and I'm going to write Lunar Green, that part in capital. And I'm going to zoom in and make this a little bit bigger. And in fact, I'm going to have to do what I usually do. I'm going to lower the size of that. And in fact, that's actually not bad right there. So I'm just going to click, stamp that down, and I have that. Okay. Now, the final thing, this is screws and text, or whatever. Do whatever text you want. I want some of this dirt to affect the screws and any alpha work I put. So if I do more alphas here, add more symbols, it can affect all of it. Doesn't work great all the time, but it does work, and it makes somewhat of a difference. So what you do here on this layer, I'm going to add what's called an anchor point. So it's got the same name as the layer name. Come back up to the dirt generator, go into the properties, scroll down to where it says micro details and micro height, because we're using alphas, not normals. Turn that on to say true. Scroll to the very bottom where it says micro height, choose anchor points, choose the anchor point, and then don't forget to change this reference channel from base color to height. Now there's a bit of work you can do here with levels, but I'm not going to bother with it. Some of the dirt has now gone in mostly behind there. It's gone into my text a little bit, and it should have gone into these as well. And if you want to prove it's true, if you don't believe me, uncheck that and you still see the impression. How about that? Very impressive. All right, so it's worked. And that is it. So if you want to have a look at it in Substance Painter before we go into Blender, let's make sure we're in perspective because it looks better. It looks more realistic. Tab to maximize. We just double check. Yeah, we're at 2K. You can come in here and turn on anti-aliasing. Starts to look a little bit better. Color profile if you want, just for how it looks here in Substance Painter. All right, so this is what we're getting. Now it's time to take this back into Blender. So what you do is you come over here and change the name right here. So Lab Cart. Let's say it's all going to be one material, so that makes it nice and easy. You should save your work, and then we're going to export the textures. So export textures, and then PBR metallic roughness is generally the one to use. All right, we'll just use that. You can change this to 16 if you want. PNG, up to you. I'm just going to leave it. Choose your output directory, but just note that the name of the material is lab cart there. So I'm going to go ahead and put this into, I don't know where. I just have a texture test folder somewhere here, texture test. I'm just going to do that and click export. And these are the maps, the textures that are going to come out. All right, back to Blender. Before we apply any textures, let's do some mirroring. And let's say that. Let's mirror this to there. Let's just do that. And let's go ahead and apply it. And let's join it. Control J. Let's join all this stuff. Control J. I'm not going to join this yet, but let's mirror that whole thing over. So that's roughly what it's going to look like. So let's start with that. Okay, over to shading. And we'll call it lab cart for the material. And let's say, what did I have selected? That. Okay, good. Click on your principal BSDF and Shift Control T. Go to your texture test folder or wherever you save that stuff. And there it is. Stand video lab cart base color all the way down to roughness. So hold Shift, grab all of them, principal texture, setup, and it will do it automatically for you. Look at that. All right. Select this one. All you got to do is select that material. And why didn't that work? Okay, lab cart. That's why. Choose lab cart. And there it is. Go back to layout, material preview. Take this, look from the end, and Shift D. Pull it down to where those bolts are, like that, and that is it. I find this too low res for my liking, and I'm not sure I really like these kind of bolts on a lab cart like this. It's up to you though. All right, just find a lighting that you think works for you. There it is. I think it'd be interesting to actually check the statistics. Hey, not bad. 3,000. Well, you can see it in here, but really, it's all one texture. And you get this thing here, which I think, you know, in the past, many of us would have tried to do that in Blender, wouldn't we? A simple material looks just as convincing. All right, that's it. So there's your lab cart, and you are off. Thanks for watching.